Walter Mosley describes this author as a quirky American genius. Who is that? Well, if you cheated, nah, I'm just playing. It was in the title. I'm sure y'all could have got that already. What's going on, YouTube family? Today, for Read So Lit, I'm going to be doing an author profile on Chester Himes. First off, I wanted to start off by thanking Dee of Brown Girl Reading for giving me an opportunity to be a part of Read So Lit this year. So Read So Lit is where we acknowledge and celebrate black literature in terms of black authors and various things like that. And Dee has been doing it, has been the principal organizer for quite some time. And so I just wanted to thank her, and it's still going strong. And I encourage everybody to look for the Read So Lit hashtags and watch some more videos that others have put out in this Black History Month of February. I'm sure you're gonna find some things that you haven't learned before and enjoy the going down the wormhole in the process. So the reason I decided to do this author profile for Read So Lit on Chester Himes is because I had never heard of him. Actually, a subscriber of mine actually put him on my radar, recommended him to me. And before then, I had never heard of him. And then once I started my circle of inquiry and I looked him up, and I found out he was a quite prolific writer and published 20 plus works, then I was like, oh man, I really got to check this guy out. And then I heard about his story, and then I was just like, oof, like me and him got a lot in common. So this author profile is kind of centered around the autobiography that came out on Chester Himes, which has recently came out about him. And the autobiography was done by Lawrence Jackson. So Lawrence Jackson is a black professor of English and history at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. And he recently published his autobiography at the end of 2017 about Chester Himes. Now the autobiography, I think it's kind of big. It's about 606 pages, and it's a hardcover. But man, it was very interesting because this guy has lived quite an interesting life. From everything from burning bridges to some of our celebrated black authors and artists like Langston Hughes and James Baldwin, to being friends and with figures such as Picasso and Malcolm X and Carl Van Vechten and Oliver Harrington. Yeah, Nikki Giovanni, who also knew Chester Himes, actually wrote an endorsement for the book. In order to write this autobiography, Jackson conducted a lot of exclusive interviews, and he had full access to Himes' archives and his catalog. So, I mean, right off the bat, man, Jackson acknowledges that a lot of people may not have heard from Chester Himes. And he says this is because he made so many enemies, both black and white, people who may have actually been wanting to raise the wave the flag and support him. But he just that kind of person, man, where he really was very polarizing. Jackson is actually quoted in saying that Chester Himes specialized in biting the hand that fed him. So that kind of sums him up right there. So, man, the thing about Chester, man, was really his life as a whole, which I'm sure led to some of the great stories that he wrote. So in his life, he actually started off, he came from a dual-parent household. Both of his parents were educators. His father was actually a college professor. And so his brothers and they did fairly well in school. He ended up making it to Ohio State University. But then it's basically as soon as he got on the campus of Ohio State University, he was not interested in really pursuing academics, and he started hanging with the underworld, started going to brothels and juke joints and speakeasies, and he ended up getting arrested for fake ID and gambling. And literally, as soon as he got out on bail for that arrest, he went and robbed a wealthy couple at armed gunpoint, and he got found and convicted, and he got sentenced to 20 years in prison. He ended up doing 7 of those years. So while he was in prison, he started having a homosexual relationship with a fellow inmate, and that fellow inmate had aspirations of being a great writer. And so I guess by default, just hanging with that person, it rubbed off on Chester, and then he kind of took up writing. So he continued to gamble while he was locked up, and when he was gambling, some of his winnings he took and he bought a typewriter while in prison, and he started writing. And his stories actually ended up making it even when he was in prison. They got printed in Esquire, and they also got printed in Abbott's Monthly, which, if you're from Chicago, that's the Chicago Black Journal. So when he got out, man, in about the 1950s, he started having some international acclaim. Some of his works really caught on, especially he's most noted for his Harlem Detective series, which are with the characters Gravedigger Jones and Coffin Ed Johnson. And and that actually got him some international acclaim. And so he actually, like a number of the artists at that time, he actually became an expatriate and moved to Paris, France. And some of the authors who were also there along with him were Richard Wright, James Baldwin, and William Gardner Smith. So he kept on publishing while he was over there, and still was kind of a polarizing figure. But a lot of his works are credited with being some of the most original works of that time, and really having a feel where you can almost feel what's going on in the story, because he wrote it so well. But he ended up dying in 1984. He had actually moved from France to Spain, and that's where he died of Parkinson's disease. So at the end of the biography that Jackson wrote on Chester Himes, he describes Himes' great gift as a writer as, and I quote, his spirited realism from the bottom that defied fear and always cut hard enough to draw blood. And that kind of summed up, how he wrote as an author. The first book that I read of Chester Himes was A Rage in Harlem, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was an interesting story that I'd never even read anything close to before. And so I encourage everybody to jump out there and try a new author. Like I said, he has over 20 works to choose from. I'm going to leave some book cover images at the end of this video so you guys can kind of see some of the book covers. And I'm also going to link them down in the description below if you're interested. Check them out. Let me know what you think. If any of you guys have already read Chester Himes, let me know what book you read and how you enjoyed it. And like I said, I want to thank again Didi of the channel Brown Girl Reading for letting me be a part of Read So Lit. Be sure to stop by her page. Thank her for all her efforts with the Read So Lit month, and check out any other videos that individuals have been posting about Read So Lit, and let me know how you like it. All right, from Zone 1 to Zone 6 and all my partners in the sticks, y'all be cool out there. And remember, we out here building, not destroying. Take care.